Gianni Uzzini, Soy Stage. Like, it's only days, but, just to see the different restaurant side experience. And following culinary school, I decided to go to the city, and I wanted to live in New York. It was my big thing. I wanted to live in New York. And my sister was there. And then, really great food and pastry and stuff that was happening in New York at the time. So I had contacted Michael Lascanas, who I did a stage with, and he didn't have anything open, and Le Merdin did. So then he contacted Dominique Ansel at the time. Sorry, this is very long-winded to get into Denmark, but this is great. I love it. This is very involved, why I'm telling you all these things.
No, I appreciate, trust me.
So he contacted Dominique for me, Danielle, because he was the pastry chef.
Was this pre-Cronut?
Yes, this was before, when he worked at Danielle. It was ages ago. It says 7 years ago? 8, 9? I don't really even remember how many years ago. Longer. So he contacted Dominique, and then I had gone on a trip with my mom to Italy as a graduation present, so I was abroad, and then he contacted me via email just saying, hey, if you want to come in and trial for a job at Danielle, we have an opening. So I went in and I worked, and then I got the job there. So very excited for me.
What was the position?
Just a pastry chef. Okay. Just pastry cook. Nothing big, but just a starter position. And it was actually in production, which is generally when you start at Danielle at that time. Now I don't know now. You start working the line, but because they needed someone more readily downstairs, I worked downstairs with some really talented pastry chefs who are all doing great things right now. But worked there, and it was about 8 months in that I was just, I think, getting burned out. I just needed a break. Living in the city, you just work to live, basically. You just work to pay your rent, and I was, working 6 days most of the time. But they were all really lovely. It was a really great experience. Learned a lot, but decided to take a breather and stopped working there after about 8 months. And then I was doing just some food styling, just as an assistant, because I had found an ad on Craigslist and really loved this lady named Lori Powell.
Oh, nice.
And she was really talented, and she does cookbooks and whatever, so I ended up working in a cookbook that was for the advertisement, and then she really liked me, so she kept me on for just her side projects. So I was doing that in conjunction with working as an intern for a wine company, just for some extra experience and some clerical work and stuff that I thought maybe I'd go into more of magazine publishing or something like that at the time. So I was trying to invest in all areas. But at that time, Andy Andres, who I knew through Dimitri, had contacted, he contacted me via email saying, hey, I'm going to move to Singapore. Do you want to go? I'm going to work at this restaurant. And I was like, you know what? I'm in my 20s, I'm single, I have no ties here outside of my sister, like, why not?
Yeah.
So I decided to go, because at that time I didn't have a real job, I just was freelancing. And in New York, that's a lot. If you're not making a ton of money freelancing, it's not a lot of money. Mm-hmm. So I was just like, all right, let's go. So I went to Singapore and then worked with Andy, which was really great. I learned a lot. It was a great restaurant experience. It was a learning experience because it's very different in Singapore, but it was a lot of fun.
What were some of the differences?
I think because you have this strange juxtaposition of people that are super wealthy and then people that aren't in Singapore. Mm-hmm. And then it's also a very, for lack of a better term, like a very policed country, and it's very strict on how they are. So it almost feels a little, again, everything's kind of brand new. So it kind of feels a little soulless until you go into, don't repeat that one. Cut that one out. Okay, I was like, cut that one out. Yeah. But it was beautiful because you see, somewhat of a culture, but not too ingrained because it's, it was a British colony. So you don't have like the deep roots, but you have, the Chinese immigrants that came over and like Malaysian. And then you have people that are Singaporean. So you have kind of a good mix, but you have the hawker stalls, which is really great for food experiences. And then you see that people, somebody got a Michelin star from one of their hawker stalls, which is really great to see that, they're showing and giving recognition to people that do this stuff every day.
Hawker stall, what is that?
It's basically street food.
Okay.
So they have these small stalls that might be, no bigger than 10 feet by 10 feet. And it's just little stalls. You go and you get your food, whatever it may be, like, fish balls or, young tofu or something, just different dishes they have, or soup noodles. Mm-hmm. And each one has a different specialty that it does. And they're amazing. And there's food books written just about the best hawker stalls, and there'll be lines. You basically just go where the lines are. but really beautiful, delicious food, and people that just do it every day, and they're excellent. They could probably match any chef just in their speed and efficiency with what they do. I remember watching some guy who was just squatting and, fabric, which is amazing. I was like, I can't do. I went to I can't do that.
I see videos online of doing this crazy. It's like pure talent. Every hit is just like
It's beautiful. The stuff that you would see and taste. I think that's where fine dining I think is amazing for the things that you can do. But I think seeing some of people do this every day, and they're doing it, some of it because they love it, and some to make a living. But they do it, and it's beautiful and tasty and delicious. And I think it really gives you an insight into people's culture and what they use, and that they're usually the most sustainable chefs. They have to be, so you can learn a lot from the most humble beginnings. So for me, it was great for that experience and the traveling experiences. Andy's also super talented. He staged at El Bulli. He was working when it first opened.
What was the place in Singapore named?
Iggy's.
Iggy's?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I worked there, and then after that I left after a year and a half and went to Italy because I just wanted to make pasta in Italy for my grandpa, just to say I did it. And it was a friend of a friend who I met in Singapore, had a friend that had worked abroad, and Italian, really young, talented chef named Lorenzo, and he had his own restaurant that's Michelin starred in Italy, so I was like, okay, I'll just go and stage.
What's the name of the restaurant?
El Coq.
El Coq.
Still there. Now it's in Vincenza, but very talented, very kind, very mature and driven guy. Extremely talented and mature for his age. Like, can't believe he's done the things he's done.
How old is he?
Now he's only 31, I believe.
Wow.
At the time, he was only 26 when I was there, 27. So to own your own restaurant and be a Michelin starred and do it yourself is, not a lot of people have done that.
Yeah.
Put it that way, especially in Italy. If you get in Europe, it's a different game. In my mind, for Michelin star, it's a different game. It's a little bit, it's tougher.
The mother country.
Yeah,
all come from.
Just Europe is just in general a little bit tougher to get your Michelin stars. Everyone else I think is on a sliding scale, but for Europe, I mean, arguably, I think it's a tougher game. So that being said, I went there and worked with him. Really great. Got to make pasta. Really enjoyed him and the restaurant. And then I got a call when I was there, or actually an email from Rocio, who was the pastry chef at Noma at that time, via Andy, because she was looking for somebody, and Andy gave my name because at that time I didn't really have a job. I was just staging until I figured out what I wanted to do. And then she said, hey, we're looking for somebody. Are you interested? And at that time, I didn't know if I wanted to stay in Italy because I got offered a job there, or if I wanted to go. And I said, I'll just give it a shot, and I'll see what it's like and what it's about over in Copenhagen.
I know. I think I'm just going to unplug it.
Can we just do that in general with that phone?
No, please.
I wouldn't mind it.
Let me see. This word. Alright. There's really no point, too. It's like...
I know, right? It's just like, let's just not have that phone in here. I think it's more so when we had more office, I don't know.
Well, it made more sense at the time that it just like, because everyone's just doing a million things.
Just leave it like that.
What happens?
You won't tell.
I do that all the time with Andy, where I just like move something which I can't see it.
Yeah.
She doesn't say it in 3 months, I throw it away. Like, it's like, you didn't need it.
She didn't even know.
Yeah.
But she'll bring that back in a year. Be like, well, you threw that away.
No, and she has like a list of things. Sure.
Women hold on to that stuff. I'm just saying, don't be surprised. Where was I? Oh, so at that time, actually, unfortunately, my boyfriend at the time had committed suicide. So I didn't know kind of what I wanted to do. I didn't know if I was going to back to the States before he had done that. But he was back in the States at the time, and I found out through that. And then I just didn't kind of know where I wanted to go, if I wanted to go back there, because it was just a few people that were working there. So I didn't speak Italian. So obviously you learn when you're there. So I didn't know if I just wanted to be in a small, secluded environment, or like when I went to Noma with my mom just for a few days stage trial to see how I liked it and whether or not it was a fit.
By the way, I love that like throughout this whole story, your mother is right there, just like
she's always there. She took me to Italy too. I was like, my mother is always there. She's like, let's go, let's do this.
No, my mom is the same way.
Yeah, she's like, let's do it.
We'll drive there right now. Don't worry.
Let's go. Where do you want to go? Where do you want to fly? I got my passport. Let's go. So she went with me to go to Noma, and I staged there for 2 days and really loved the feel the environment, the drive in people, that it was a lot of people, my age or younger or older, that were driven to a common goal. Everyone worked together, had a really great, strong camaraderie. It seemed like they were doing interesting things. So for me, I just thought, why not try it? Live in Denmark, see what it's about. So then I moved there in April of 2012 and started working there. And I loved it. It was just a lot of work, a lot of hours, a lot to learn, and a lot of responsibility in ways. I think I learned a lot about myself, and also grew a lot as a chef, and not only as a chef, but also as an individual, for what they ask of you, and what you're expected, and what you ask of yourself.
What was it that you learned about yourself through that experience?
So I think to just even push myself further, and to make yourself accountable, and you don't want to let your team members down. So you're super driven. You want to always be there. You want to show up for work on time. You want to push yourself. So we have projects. We had Saturday night projects at the time, where, they started that in the beginning, where everyone had to come up with ideas even, or concepts, and then deliver on them. So it's your deliverables, I'm going to say, as a chef or something.
It sounds very familiar.
Yeah, I know, right? All different, same things, different language. But you have to come up with a project or something you're really passionate about, or you want to give a talking point on something that has to do with food. It doesn't necessarily have to be a dish. Usually people transcribed it as a dish, but not necessarily. Some people did studies. The old head chef Dan did a really thoughtful study one time that had nothing to do with, had to do with food, but nothing to do with actually a dish. And anyway, so that being said, it makes you really put yourself out there, because you're in front of, could be anywhere from 20 to 40 to 50 people, depending on if there's a filming going on of something, that you're making yourself vulnerable in front of, for essentially criticism. Now, it's not, they always gave constructive feedback. It wasn't anything that you're just shit or you're terrible or something like that, but it strengthens it toughens your skin a bit, in a good way, and it also makes you rely on other people too. You don't just this is amazing dish, this is what I'm doing. You're taking from other people. It's oh, well, I like this, but this could use more acidity, or have you thought about doing this? So it helps you, I guess, brainstorm and gain the maturity and the insight to seek others out, because no one's an island.
What's interesting too, because it sounds like a tech company in the way where it's just everyone, you got to start developing, you got to start building. And
it still is. It's one of the most innovative restaurants now, just in a lot of ways. A lot of restaurants have been, but Renee's super special in a lot of ways. I think to the food industry, it really is. I only know two really great Renees that are good men. I actually have never heard of them besides you two.
Yeah, my father, also a great man.
See, I'm just saying. But very innovative for the time, very driven. Opened the restaurant very young. Just knows what he wants and goes for it, and he. It's a perfect example of somebody that makes it happen. Tough at times, and but very innovative, drives people to be their best, or pull the best out of them. Was very encouraging to a lot of chefs. Really innovative in his plating style and his concepts and foraging aspects, and bringing people to think more thoughtfully about food. And just even all the other chefs that were there, the chef Matt, that has his own restaurant in Copenhagen named Mast. He's does amazing things with sustainable food, and just the way he has his own garden and uses all coffee grounds for all these amazing things, and not just composting, but reuses some of the items that as much as he can. As well, there's another guy, Christian, who does amazing things and has a lot of restaurants that came from Noma. So I think he really instills something in people that is unmatched, that I've seen, which is pretty amazing. They have to have it in themselves, of course, but totally. He fosters people. I think as something in them, he plants a seed that's really beautiful to see a lot of people blossoming throughout that I know or know of. It's just encouraging.
Yeah, well, because before I even knew of Noma, right? I would already think, oh, that's interesting. That person's foraging for their own food, or they're growing their own herbs, and I'm and then you kind of I learn more. I'm it's sourced back to this one place and this one, this one chef. And, and it's interesting to see the tendrils just kind of extend out to the rest of the world.
Yeah, and because it's a beautiful. They have amazing produce and dairy and land and way of life, and it's really beautiful. And he really brought attention to that, which there's places in the world all over that have that. But I think he made people really think about it. People didn't before, but it highlighted it, in a special way, internationally. That people really see.
I love what you're saying though. Like brought like another angle to food, like having it sustainable or having it like local, and even when he did in Tulum, and that like there's like I have this image in my head of like him going to like the ladies making the tortillas in there and just like being so stoked about like handmade tortillas. These women like made their own masa, and that like